being one of the most special, unique biomolecules out of the four. Okay? Ha? Correct. Ito may correct ka niya ba? Anyway, palagyan naman niya ako yung Bluetooth mo, may automatic na siya ako na. If ever na nakakonect po niya, yun ang pumupag-play yung music nila. So, balik na. Again, lipids is our second destination among the four biomolecules. Now, unsa maging naka-special ni lipids? Or when you hear the word lipids, what do we usually think of? Sa may kasagaran na ito, mauna-unaan, kung lipids na istoryahan, magbalak.
Fats.
Fats! Of course, very much related din na siya sa lipids. What else?
Oil.
Oil. Sana oil. Sa pa?
Wax.
Wax! Okay, good. What else? But do not also mistaken it for petroleum, because petroleum is more on the alkane side. So wax is different. Okay. So what else? Or, based on your understanding of carbohydrates, what do you think would be different this time around in lipids? Masama kayo nakalahig sa lipids as compared sa carbohydrates? Pareho na ba silang function? No? When it comes to human biochemical reactions, do you think lipids also play the same role as carbohydrates? What's the role sa carbohydrates sa ito ang lawas, class? If you can recall, energy, di ba? It provides us energy, and some of it is also used for structural purposes. What about lipids? What do you think is the role of lipids in our body? So in human anatomy, human composition, lipids is the second most abundant biomolecule in our body, right after proteins. So, what then is the role of lipids?
Storing energy.
Storing energy. That could be one. No? So, manatong i-learn this afternoon. No, I know, muna yung pinaniwag ko rin ha. May kayo. Yung pili natin yung kagabi, panihapon. Okay? So, a lot of people think that lipids is always associated with food, diba? Especially when we think about lipids, kay fat, atong mahuna-hunaan. Now, is it necessarily to think of fats as good or bad? Do you think fats are good or are they bad? Now, let me tell you something. In biochemistry, we treat all biomolecules as good. Okay? They are all good, no? Naturally. Naturally, ha? Okay, usually what we do is pasubraan man. That's when everything's different. Okay? So, what are lipids? During our discussion in carbohydrates, we define it as polyhydroxy ketones or aldehydes, or any of those sort when we hydrolyze specific organic molecules. What about for lipids? How do we technically define them? So lipids are hydrophobic, non-polar molecules. Kasi pasabot na ng non-polar, class. Napabatay na inumduman sa polarity of substances. Also, ito yung pinaka-basic na rule sa solubility, di ba? This has something to do with solubility. So, ito yung pinaka-basic na rule. It's like dissolves like. Again, pinaka-basic na rule sa solubility, di ba, is like dissolves like. Meaning, polar substances can only be dissolved by polar substances as well. Non-polar substances are dissolved by non-polar substances. Now, if you try to differentiate carbohydrates from lipids, we know na if ito ang i-dissolve ang sugar, di ba? Sugar is carbohydrates. Di ba, if magkutaw tawag asukal, madisol ang asukal di. Madisol. So therefore, water is a polar solvent. Now, what do you think is the polarity of sugar? Di ba niya natanga like? Dissolves? Like. So kung water is polar, and sugar is dissolved by water, then therefore, di ba na-check? Sugar is polar. Very good. Now, ang kalahiran niya sa lipids is that lipids are non-polar. Now, since non-polar ang lipids, that means that they don't interact with water at all. Lipids cannot be dissolved by water because water is polar. That is why lipids are hydrophobic. In the literal sense, hydrophobic means water-fearing. Scared sa water. Mura kita din kung tugnaon. So, because of that, they are only soluble in non-polar solvent. No, that is why oil is actually just fat that is liquid in room temperature. Now, since fat is also lipid, that is why oil, being a lipid, cannot be mixed with water. Kasi tawagan ng property nga when liquids can be mixed together. Diba, when a specific solute is being dissolved in a solvent, we call it a solubility, right? What about when liquids are mixed together? What do you call that property, man? We call it miscibility. Very good, miscible. No? We call it as miscibility. So oil and water, since they cannot be mixed together, they are immiscible. No? So that is, the reason for that one again is due to their different polarities. So oil is non-polar, being a lipid, and water is polar solvent. So they cannot be together. Okay. So since lipids probably is the only biomolecule that is hydrophobic or non-polar. That is why if you have an unknown sample and you are being tasked to determine kung saan ang biomolecule siya, you can do that one by extracting it with non-polar solvents. If ever that unknown sample can be dissolved in a non-polar solvent, then there is a very big chance that that is a lipid. Because among the four biomolecules, lipids are the only non-polar organic molecules. Gets? Kasi ba? Maniningog sa wala. So lipids, ang iyang etymology, no, iyang word origin kay, ikan siya sa Greek word na lipos, which literally means fats. No? So, lipids are very diverse kanang biomolecules. No? Unlike carbohydrates na siya klaro nga hierarchy ba. We could classify carbohydrates in different ways, based on structure, based on function, but for lipids, lisod kayo siya i-classify sa iyang structures. Kinatay mga lipids nga tagas kaayo, tagas ng mga hydrocarbon chains, naapod kay mga lipids nga naka-cyclical structure. So medyo lisod siya ikuan. So the only appropriate way for lipids to be classified is through their functions. No? So the main function for most lipids are they are used for storage, particularly energy storage ng mga lipids. That's when simple lipids such as triglycerides, triacylglycerols come in, or waxes and sterols. No? We also have lipids that are used for structural, particularly as membrane lipids. No? That's why you have those, structural and storage. For storage lipids, no? Most of these lipids are stored in your adipose tissues. Kaya mo sa adipose tissues, right? Those are made up of your fat. Very good. Fat tissue or fat cells. Okay? And for plants, no, they're usually stored in oil form. No? And speaking of energy, lipids can provide twice as much energy nagikan sa carbohydrates or even proteins. Last discussion regarding carbohydrates, we learned that carbohydrates can provide how much energy? Can you recall? How much energy ito provides carbohydrates? Okay na kayo po. That is 4 kilocalorie per 1 gram. Again? 4 kilocalorie per 1 gram. Meaning 1 gram of carbohydrate can give you 4 kilocalories of energy. Okay? Calories is a unit for energy also. Okay? Now, if fats can provide twice, so what do you think is the figure for lipids? Kung twice siya sa 4, bilang na? 8. But the answer actually is 9. Lipids can provide 9 kilocalories of energy per 1 gram. So, mas efficient siya sa carbohydrates when it comes to providing energy. But ang pangutana there is, nanong dili man fats or lipids ang ato ang main diet. When I say kind of diet, our main source of food ba? Nanong dili man ta. Imagine good if ang inyong main nakaunon kay puro stockbook instead of rice. Can you imagine? Because again, lipids can provide twice energy. So meaning isang duhara na kahungit ninyo sa tambok, okay na mo. Makadagan na mo pila ka kilometro. Pero nga nung dili man yun natambok ang atong kaunan. Because again, your body, what kind of nutrient your body absorbs?
Bro.
Masagit ang ako nga nutrient ra ang i-absorb sa mong body, sa mong cell, i-admit sa mong cells. That is, I heard something. Starts with energy. Glucose, very good. So your cells can only take glucose. But then again, lipids are not glucose man. Lipids needs to be converted first into glucose before it can be utilized. So that is why it's not really practical for our body to do that. Okay? Besides, carbohydrates are the primary source. Okay? Again, carbohydrates are the primary source. But that means that lipids could be your secondary source. If dili mo kung di ka mo kaon pinakadlaw, dili pa magkita mamatay good. Kinapamantay long-term na storage. Okay? So, if wala tayong supply sa carbohydrates, pwede nga atong lipids ang atuang i-metabolize. Okay? That is why the main function of lipids is just a storage for storage purposes. Long-term na storage sa atong energy. Okay? Although carbohydrates can be also converted into storage form. For example, glucose can be converted into glycogen. Yung kanang glycogen, makita na nato sa ato ang liver. Pwede na ninyo ma-analyze ang liver ninyo actually. Na siya ay glucose. Okay, anyway, mag-experiment ng mga nabuhay ka college. So much for that one. Lipids are anhydrous. Kasi pasabutan ng anhydrous. Anther means none or not. No, hydrous is water, so most of lipids are actually very dry. No, because they don't interact with moisture or water, because they are water-fearing. Okay, and lipids boosts palatability. When I say palatability, that is taste. That refers to taste. That is why when our food, diba? Most of our food, ganan kitaan ng mga fried chicken, French fries, burgers, no? Pansit, like that. Okay? It is because these foods usually have something to do with lipids. Diba? They are stir-fried. They are dipped in oil. Most of them are really rich in trans fats. Okay? That's because, again, lipids does decrease fightability. Okay? Kasaway pa mong tao ng kuhan, puros dugaw na. Napit eh. Wala nas kung kuhan mo ka ng ginantan mo, naging mo ka-determine kung gulublas na. Diba? So, muna siya, most lipids really do have something to do with culinary, culinary sense. Anyway, next, fatty acids. Now, fatty acids are the simplest lipids. They are your monosaccharide equivalent, no? For carbohydrates. Fatty acids food sa lipids. Okay? Mura na siya analogy pa. Monosaccharides is to carbohydrates, blank is for lipids. So, answer na kay fatty acid. So, fatty acid is the simplest form of lipids. Okay? The same way nga, monosaccharides sa carbohydrates. Now, our body does produce fatty acids. Okay? And we can also get that one from our diet. But there are specific fatty acids na dili kaya i-produce sa ato ang bodies. That's why we need to outsource it. When we say na outsource, we need to get that somewhere. No? We need to get that from the food that we eat. So, muna gitawag na ito essential fatty acid. Mga example na ng omega-3, omega-6. Asa man mo mga dumugan yan? MX3. Fish oil. Correct. Most of ka ng seafoods do contain omega-3. No? Kaya mga submarino tuna, di ba? Have you heard about that one? Rich in omega-3. Pero kung ito siya, tawag ganito. Dito nga siya actually they are really rich in kwan. Pero ang tulang na part, mo ito'y kadodoan pa. Okay? Nasunod. We have here essential for absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Can you tell me what are the fat-soluble vitamins? Nagadwa-dwa na. Again, what are the fat-soluble vitamins? Oh, we go by the acronym ADEC. ADEC. That's vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Addicted. Again, what are the fat-soluble vitamins? That's your vitamin ADEC. No? That's vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin sige mga tawagin mo kayo. Nursing ganito, mga katawan, factor ito mga malicious, kaya mga kauna. But anyway, those are your fat-soluble. Of course, yung counterpart kay water-soluble. What are the water-soluble yung mga vitamins? Vitamin C and vitamin B's. Because there are many vitamins, vitamin B's. That's B1, B2, B3, B5, B7, B9, B10, B12. Okay? So, what is the role of lipids in fat-soluble vitamins? Now, these vitamins will not be admitted to your body unless they will be dissolved or soluble. They will not be dissolved in fats. No? That is why, to maximize your intake of vitamins, kinsa man din mag-hilig kayo nga mag-inom ng vitamins. I mean, that is good, ha? That is for added production, but it is not really necessary for those mga healthy. Okay? Kaya naman, for example, vitamin C. Now, most vitamin C's they are in 500 milligram dosage. Ano niya? Now, how much of that is being absorbed by your body, do you think? Out of 500, pila na may absorb sa iyong body? More or less, 80 to 100 milligrams. Now, where's the rest of it? Remember that vitamin C is water soluble. It just becomes urine. That is why orange can even eat yung vitamins. You're just making very mahal nga ihi. Very expensive na pee. But we're not saying that that's not very practical or good, because I mean that is for protection of yawa, that is for added protection for your body, but it's not really necessary for everybody unless your doctor recommends you to okay. Now for the case of fat soluble yung mga vitamins, like for example ka ng mga may numog Myra E, that's vitamin E. Now, vitamin E, ang iyang name is sabay name sa vitamin E. It's tocopherol.
Ha?
Huwag mo kaila sa mga vitamins din. Like vitamin A is for retinol, C is ascorbic acid. Oh my goodness. But vitamin B is tocopherol. No? So there are names for specific vitamins. For vitamin E, that is why when you are taking fat-soluble na vitamins, you have to inyo na i-take ng fat-soluble na mga vitamins right after you eat or before mo eat. For water-soluble na vitamins, you should take that one 30 minutes before you eat or 2 hours after you eat. Okay? That's how you maximize your vitamins. Kalimutan na, okay? Or else, ma-dissolve na sa inyong lawas. May mong ihin. Okay? And the next, we have enzymes that require lipid molecules for maximal activity. We call it as lipoproteins. Now, since enzymes are also proteins and most of them will interact with lipids for maximal activity, like for example, transport of materials in and out of the cell or signal receptors or something like that, okay? So that is for maximal activity. Now, for our discussion today, there are many very tasking na supposedly very broad lipids, no? But what we're going to do is we're just going to limit to the basics of lipids, and that is we're going to start with the simple lipids, particularly the fatty acids, okay? And then we're gonna work our way to triglycerides and only that. What other noted na mga topics for lipids is we have also the membrane lipids. We have your phospholipids and glycolipids. We also have our steroids. We also have our eicosanoids and membranes. No? That is from, again, phospholipids and glycolipids. But we're going to start with fatty acids because that is the basis of lipids. Okay? Now, what are fatty acids? Why are they called fatty acid? No? Very unforgettable na name. Fatty acid. So, why is it called fatty acid? Now, here is, of course, an overview of that. When we say a fat molecule, we are actually referring to, fat refers to what we call as triglyceride. Now, the former name of that one is triacylglycerol. They're just the same. Other books would have it as TAG, because that is triacyl or triacylglycerol. They call it as fat molecule, one fat molecule. Okay? Now, fat molecules are not polymers. What do we know again of polymers? What's again of polymers again? Polymers are, of course, they are complex structures, diba? Complex structures which are made up of single repeating units. Like for example, in the case of carbohydrates, starch is a polysaccharide. Polysaccharide is made up of many monosaccharides. Okay? So starch, being a polysaccharide, is made up of lots and lots of beta-D glucose. Glucose is a monosaccharide, right? So you've got many glucose that are bonded to one another. They make up your polysaccharide. Now, For fat or triglycerides, they are not polymers. They're just one big molecule that are assembled together via a certain reaction. What's the reaction again? Dehydration. Saan ito nainom naman sa dehydration reaction ganin? Saan ganin yung mag-eliminate sa dehydration? Yeah. Saan ma-eliminate ganin? Water molecule. Magkatang ito siya dehydration ba? You dehydrate. You remove water. So for example, this. Okay? So, we learned, diba, during our discussion with monosaccharides, since monosaccharides have hydroxyl functional groups within them, it has O and then the H. That is why when they react to form complex structures, you eliminate 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. That gives us H2O or water. So, ano na siya ang dehydration synthesis? By eliminating those atoms, you actually link them together. Now, this is a structure of a fat molecule. No? So, that is your triglyceride. Okay? Now, notice na si mag-backbone din, no? Kaya siya mag-backbone. What do you think is that? No? A fat molecule has 2 components. No? First being your glycerol. Okay? So, glycerol is a triol. Meaning na nasa ito hydroxyl groups. Which is very important later on so that siya, kaya bakit mga glycerol would be connected. Now, those are your fatty acid. Okay? Again, also ganyan, doon ka component sa imuhang triglyceride, glycerol, and your fatty acid. Now, glycerol is a triol. Meaning na nanay doon ka pong alcohol. So, one is here, CH2OH, CH2OH, CH2OH. That is your glycerol. Now, next component is a fatty acid. That is a fatty acid. Why is it called a fatty acid again? Because it has an acid group. Kung sabi nito yung tawag ani nga functional group gani, C-double-bond-O-OH. Very good. But the group is carboxyl group. Okay? That makes it, this whole molecule, makes it a carboxylic acid. So literally, fatty acid is just carboxylic acid. Okay? So, ang part sa carboxylic acid is, this is your methyl end. No? When I say methyl end, that is your CH3. No? CH3. Kung wala siya ito ang methyl end, this is our acid end. No? Then, natutang ito ang carboxyl group. No? That makes it carboxylic acid. Okay? So, because of this structure, no, most fatty acid are very long chains. Kinatag long chains, di ba? Long chains of hydrocarbon. Sa ginang hydrocarbon ganun? Sa ginang hydrocarbon ganun? Hydrogen and carbon. That's just the linkages of carbon and hydrogen. Just like this. Okay? So, most fatty acid exists in even numbers. Okay? So, most carboxylic acids that are fatty acids are even numbered. Kaya even numbered, right? So 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Now, those are more common na mga fatty acids. No? So, because of this, no, tungod sa yung structure class, now, ano siya, ginawa niya siya ball and stick model, ha? This is the ball and stick model of fatty acids. Because of this long chain of hydrocarbon, which makes it hydrophobic. Because the rule, diba, the rule in solubility is that the longer the hydrocarbon chain is, the lower also the polarity is. Magkaubos ang polarity niya ba? Again, magkataas ang hydrocarbon chain, magkaubos na yung polarity, magkaubos po yung solubility sa water. Okay? That is why it becomes hydrophobic. No? So, they cannot be mixed well with water. Now, how could that be? Because fatty acids still has an acid group. No? Kung i-disregard lang natin siyang no, hydrocarbon chain plus, naaman kayo si double bond OH. We know that oxygen is very highly electronegative. Meaning na, it can do hydrogen bonds with water. Since water is H2O, na siya'y H, the oxygen should be able to bond with the H of water. But because of the presence ani niya, ma-overpower na lang po ng acid group mo ng useless ang iyang polarity here. Magka-hydrophobic naman siya. No? Dili na siya mo-interact with water. Marami natin inutuman sa lipids being non-polar. Now, how do we make triglyceride? Again, triglyceride, ang iyang former name is triacylglycerol. Meaning na, this structure, this fat molecule is made up of glycerol and gluca acyl groups. Okay? So we need one glycerol and we need also how many fatty acids? To make one triglyceride. Pila ka mong fatty acid? Good. Again, how many fatty acids do we need to form one triglyceride? We need 3. So, the one here, this is just one of the 3 dehydration reactions in the synthesis of a fat. Fat is triglyceride or triacylglycerol. How do we do it? Again, via dehydration reaction. So see here, if this is our glycerol, and we have a carboxylic acid or fatty acid is like this, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that is your hexanoic acid. No? So how do we link your fatty acid with the glycerol, one of the triol, no, to form your triacylglycerol or triglyceride? We do that one via dehydration reaction. So this gets eliminated. Pila na ka mo hydrogen? So H2. Oh, so you remove that one. Now the carbon is connected to oxygen. Now what functional group is this? What functional group is this? This is C double bond O and then R. The answer is, very good. That is your ester. So in triglycerides, you have 3 ester linkages. Okay? So this is one ester linkage, this is another ester linkage, and this is also another third ester linkages. So you need 3. Pila ganit na fatty acid ganit, class? 3 fatty acid to form 1. This is 1, kanihan? This is 1 triglyceride, 1 fat molecule. Okay? And earlier I mentioned that fatty acids are even numbered. Now we have a notation that we use to represent a fatty acid. No? We count how many carbons are there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you write that one as C16 colon 0. Okay? What about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 na ba? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is C14 colon 0. So we'll figure it out. Another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is C16 colon 0. Now, of course, for carboxylic acid, it doesn't always mean that it should be single bonds. Some fatty acids could have double bonds here. So this becomes different in oil. So this is C16 but 1, 2. So this becomes C16 colon 2.
Okay.
Okay, ano na naman? Delta 1, 2, 3. 3,
Na.
4, 5, 6.
Ambu.
Okay, so what kind of notation is this? Alright, so other books allow it just like that. Other books would also C. Okay, so the number after C, that represents how many carbons are there in the fatty acid. And then colon, the number after that is determining, or it determines how many multiple bonds are there. When we say multiple bonds, that refers to double or triple bonds. Okay? So in this example, we just draw here, no, there are 2 double bonds in the structure, so we write it as C16 colon 2. And then delta determines the location of
Double
the double bonds.
multiple bonds.
Asa ka mag-counting of 1, arin ka mag-counting sa 2 ang ester group.
Ah.
Okay? So, tayo 1, 2, 3. Ano siya? Sige. If padrumingan ka mo og C6 to delta 4, how do you draw that?
Ano? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So, that would be, mawala ka sa C double bond OH.
Triple
Kay
bond.
fatty acid naman ni siya, that's just carboxylic acid.
No, triple bond.
So, C double bond OH, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dayon, 2 man din. 3 and 4.
Bantobra. Ibog.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Then add the hydrogens. Kani kay usa na lang. Kani kay no need. Kani kay usa na lang. And that's it.
Okay.
Okay?
Tak klaro naman.
So this is a notation for fatty acid. Sabot? Alright. So what's the similarity now between the sugar and the fatty acid? Naman niyo, class? Naabay ka pa rin sugar sa fatty acid. Aside from Can you see, this is your keyword projection, diba? This is a monosaccharide, the simplest carbohydrate. This one is a fatty acid, which is the simplest lipid. So what's the what's the similarity between the two? Are they the same or not? Lahi. Basically, both contains the same elements. Right? So both the sugar and fatty acids do contain the following elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Do you see any other elements that is not common between the two? Naabay lang yung elements ka wala makita na to sa both sa sugar o sa fatty acid? So both of them are made up of carbon, hydrogen, o oxygen. Pag nagkalahi lang din sila on how they are being connected or being linked. Diba? So you can see sa fatty acid, nakakanin. But for sugar, it's a bit different. Like here. Okay? Now, for fatty acids, we can classify them. We classify them based on their degree of saturation. What do we mean by saturation? In organic and biochemistry, there is a specific definition for the degree of saturation. And that is, what does saturation mean here?
Process.
Diba in solutions, nakainomto po kasi yung lessons in yung chemistry, diba? When we talk about saturation, diba, in chemistry, we have supersaturated, unsaturated, saturated, solutions. It's a bit different in organic or biochemistry. Okay? Because, by definition, the degree of saturation refers to the maximum number of hydrogens present in an organic molecule. What do we mean by that? Again, the degree of saturation in the world of organic chem and biochem, it refers to the maximum number of hydrogens present in an organic molecule. How do we do that? How do we differentiate that? No? We look into ethane and caffeine. Are you able to remember your org chem? Ethane and caffeine. One is an alkane. The other one is alkene. No? When it comes to their formulas, ethane is C2 ethane is C2H
H2N.
C2
H.
Di ba, ang formula sa akin yung C2H2N plus them?
2N plus 1.
6. Good. Okay. C2H6. Ethene. Di ba, ang alkene kay C2H2N? C2? Very good. Ethene is C2H4. Itong i-draw yung chemical structure, yung molecular structure. That would be C, and then needs siya to hydrogens per carbon. So that makes it 6. But to make this, ethene is alkene, meaning na siya ay double bond. So since carbon here is already doubly bonded to another carbon, so it just needs 2 more hydrogens. So that makes it C2H4. What's the difference between the two?
Bond.
Do not look at the bond.
Right. Ang number of hydrogen.
But it's the number of
Hydrogen.
hydrogens. They're both the same in a way that they are two carbons. But the other one was already spent on having another bond. Another multiple bond bond. That is your double bond. Because in fact, one bond will cost you one pair of hydrogen. Okay? If you remove this bond right here, it will return as being two hydrogens or one pair of hydrogen. It becomes C2H6. Meaning, if you have a 2-carbon hydrocarbon, the maximum number of hydrogens it can contain is 6. If it is not being satisfied, then we call it as unsaturated. So, ethane here is saturated because it contains the maximum number of hydrogens. Now, that is very technical. And of course, not everybody likes technicalities, no? That is why the easier way to remember saturated and unsaturated is by the presence of
Hydrogen.
double
Triple bond. Wrong.
just trying to find complicated more. But the easier, the shorter route in determining the saturation is by looking at the bonds. Because, again, one bond is equivalent to one pair of hydrogen. Okay? Magawas pala na sa inyong mga examination like entrance exam. Okay. Kasi ang saturation doesn't actually have to be bonds, no? But the easier way if we are looking at illustrations is by looking at the presence of multiple bonds. Okay? So if there is a multiple bond, meaning na one pair of hydrogen was spent away. No? To return that, no, to remove that double bond, it will cost two hydrogen. One pair of hydrogen. So we have the next one. We have saturated and unsaturated fatty acid. Now, look at them. Most saturated fatty acids are most unsaturated fatty acids are
Healthy fats.
you may have noticed that the most saturated fatty acids here appears to be more solid than unsaturated fatty acid. Most of them are in like oil or liquidy form. No? So, pwesa na mga mantika. We're gonna start with saturated. Okay? So, do you see a jellyfish? That is a fat molecule. Okay? That is a triglyceride. Ano sa narinig? Triglyceride. Hindi na siya jellyfish yung tawag na. So, kaning mga tentacles, mga fatty acid na siya. Okay? So, kani siya, that is the word fatty acid. No? So, kung sino makita sa itong fatty acid? Na ay double bond o wala? Kung wala'y double bond, saan siya mga klase ng fatty acid? Again, kung wala'y double bond niya makita? Very good. Okay, that's it. Very easy, right? So, this is again a saturated fatty acid. Okay? When we draw a saturated fatty acid, we don't see any double bonds at all. Okay? It's just straight chain, linear, and all of those are single bonds. No? Okay, happy naman ng Valentine's, di na siya makita lagi. Okay? But then again, may mga kasama yan. Joke. So this is C18, that is your stearic acid. No? That is octadecanoic acid. Okay? common name na ng si uric acid. But yung mga kasama kay mo ni siya. And again, as what I said earlier, most carboxylic or most fatty acids are in even numbers. Okay? So, C4, C6, C12, C14, C16, and C18. Okay? So you've got your butyric, caproic, chloric, myristic, palmitic, and also stearic acid. So since most saturated fats is away, nahiwag na to. So since most saturated fats are linear, most of it are in single bonds, that means that those fatty acids are quite close to one another. Now, di ba, in tendency, according to kinetic molecular theory, di ba, if ang mga particles, sa kanina siya na state of matter ganit. O sa kanina state of matter kung mga particles get very close to one another,
Solid.
those are solids. That is why most saturated fats, no, fats with mostly saturated fatty acids, they appear to be solids in room temperature. No? Paresa ng mga margarine ba or butter, no? Solids in sa room temperature. It's because, again, the fatty acids there are saturated. Meaning, straight na ginasiya niya, dukol kayo sila sa usagusa. Remember, di ba? Tagtulo man siya, di ba? So, kapag tulo ka pang fatty acid, kayo wala na yung mga baliko sa structure, dukol kayo na sila sa usagusa. Okay? So, they would appear to be solid. Okay? Now, not really all dili na ng saturated fats food kay solids. No, some of them is semi. No? So, here are foods highest. Couple of foods are food. Food highest in saturated fats. We have mostly kaya mga nasa meat. No, ito yung nakita ganyan ba mga red meats. Dairy products also does contain some saturated fats. Chocolate, no, especially in kabalintay sa mga kanilang kainin. So, saturated fats. So, saturated fats. Okay? And also, eggs. No? Asa ka nabita sa eggs ang saturated fats? Yes, very good. Ang egg yolk. No? Because the white is protein. Okay? Albumin mo ng white sa egg white, that is mostly albumin. And then egg yolk, that is actually saturated fat. Okay? But we're not saying here that saturated fats aren't healthy. Okay? We're not saying that. So they're healthy. To be honest. Okay? And then oils also, there are also certain oils that is rich in saturated fats. We have butter, we have also lard, duck fat, chicken fat, and I'm feeling we're going to go out and saturated fats. Okay? So those are saturated fatty acids. Now, what if we have this? No? So this is saturated fatty acid, right? Okay, puro sa mansiya single bonds. Now, what if we remove, again, one pair of hydrogen that cost us one double bond. And because of this double bond, bumalik na siya. Okay? So, makita po here, C, double bond, C. Makita po is mo inanay ang structure. Okay? So, pataas man siya mo side, kalipod na side kay pataas, we call it a cis conformation. Most of fatty acid na unsaturated are cis conformation. Again, most unsaturated fatty acids kana na ay double bond kasagaran kay cis conformation. Because of that, cis conformation, ang hitabo is, mura siya na ay bend. Dili siya ba? I don't know, the Bisaya is balik. Balik ko, something. Basta bend, okay? Na siya bend sa iyang structure. Unlike sa saturated fatty acids or saturated na fats or triglycerides, no? Na straight ra siya, that means na compact sa usap-usap ang saturated fatty acid. Walang solid siya. But for unsaturated fatty acids or unsaturated fats, because of the presence of double bonds, may bends ang ato ang structure. That means they cannot be compact towards another because may space sa ilaha. So, hindi na sila suod kayo. So, according to kinetic molecular theory, kung dili siya lubos sa usap-usap, sa may kuwan na to, state na to, that is, it's that is liquid. No, because of the presence of one or more double bonds between carbon. When most unsaturated fatty acids, they appear to be liquid at room temperature. Walang kasagaran sa ilang mga vegetable oil, those are rich in unsaturated fatty acid. Okay? So, kanan siya. Okay, so this is one triglyceride. This is another triglyceride. Now, both of these are unsaturated. Yan naman yung unsaturated fatty acids ni Siyabas? Yan naman yung unsaturated fatty acids ng duha ka structures na ito
Double bond. Multiple
Yan
bond.
siya ay
Multiple.
double bonds. Again, if there is a presence of double bonds or multiple bonds, then automatically may mo na siya unsaturated. Now, again, in a triglyceride, tulo pa buong fatty acid ang present. Now, if there is only one fatty acid among the three contains double bonds, well, regardless na kung duha, tulo, lima ka buwang naa, as long as that one fatty acid contains double bonds, we call it as monounsaturated fatty acid. Okay? Again, tawagin natin siya monounsaturated kung usara sa tulo ka fatty acid ang naay double bonds. Again, tawagin natin siya monounsaturated kung usara nga fatty acid ang naay double bond. Regardless na kung daghan siya double bonds na nga there. Okay? As long as the double bonds are present in one fatty acid. Now, that's a different story kung ang mga double bonds are distributed. Pwedeng duha, pwedeng tulo. So, kung duha or tulo na ang ay double bonds, then we call it as polyunsaturated. Okay? Regardless na po na siya kung pinakabuong double bonds ang present. As long as ang duha or tulo sa fatty acids kinangay double bonds. So, kaya sa katiyan na sa mono or polyunsaturated plus?
Mono kay Osara ka.
Mono kay? Osara ka nanay? Double bonds sa tulo. Ang polyunsaturated? 2 or? It's a 2. Okay, 2 ba mapili?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Ang naay? Double bonds. And that is regardless kung pinakabong double bonds ang present. Okay? Let's take a look at this. Check it out. Try to classify this gas. If this is a saturated fatty acid, monounsaturated, or polyunsaturated?
Mono.
Check it out. Try to answer that.
Ay, poly. Poly kay triglyceride naman na siya. Yeah. Na tuluman yung double bond.
What's the answer?
Poly.
Kaya po ni eh.
Tuluman ka double bond.
Sige. Okay, let's inspect each fatty acid. Let's start with the first. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is C, 10, colon, 0. So meaning, ang pag-ibig nga rin 0 ba rin, class? Walay? Walay ko. Walay. Kasi ba? Multiple bond. What about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So C, 18, colon, 1, delta, 9. Kaya na yung delta 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nasa 9 carbon na stored sa double bond. Okay? What about this one? 18, kaya na siya.
18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Kailangan ko work double bond sa
9, 10,
double.
11, 9, 12.
Kailangan ko.
9, 12,
Asa man nakita?
13, 9, 12, 15.
9, 10, 11, 12,
15.
15. Very good. So, this one. So, since duha ka buong fatty acid kina ay double bond, therefore, we classify that one as polyunsaturated fatty acid. PUFA. Okay. Polyunsaturated fatty acid. So, PUFA, to monounsaturated fatty acid. So, kung puros ng siya single bond, saturated fatty acid. Okay, nakasagot?
Yes.
Okay, ready na po tayo sa exam din. Okay? Now, other functions for fatty acids, not only fatty acids, but most lipids. Most lipids are used for structural purposes. Most of them are being utilized for membrane purposes, particularly in cell membrane. O saan ito ng cell membrane kanina to, guys? Nakalimot ba yun? Kasi ito ng cell membrane. Sa yung composition sa itong cell membrane, phospholipid bilayer. Okay? So, it's actually phospholipids na because these heads, these heads are made up of phosphate groups, while these tails are made up of lipids, particularly fatty acid. Now, based on what you see here, what kind of fatty acids do you think these are? Nanawa ninyo yung shape class. Nasi Ben, right? So kung nasi Ben,
Unsaturated.
nasi what kind of fatty acids? What kind of degree of saturations can we expect from these? These are
Unsaturated.
unsaturated. We don't know yet kung mono or poly is
Duharawan na.
Duharawan na ipakita sa doha here. No? So these are unsaturated. Meron rin unsaturated na siya, class. You don't see the bonds there.
Hey, Ben.
So you see the bends. Okay, may mga balik-balik ba? Okay? So we know that the lipids in your cell membrane are made up of unsaturated fatty acid. Now, there is a term for cell membrane, diba? Cell membrane is fluid mosaic model. That is the reason why cell membrane is semi-permeable. That means it doesn't allow all the materials to really get into or out of the cell. No? Now, the reason why your cell membrane somehow is exhibiting a fluid behavior, it's because of the kind of saturation the lipids are. It's unsaturated. Diba? Most unsaturated lipids or fatty acids appears to be liquid, no, at room temperature. Okay, kung saturated pa lang ni Sia class, what do you think would be the behavior of cell membrane? Kung straight na lang siya, saturated, what do you think would be the behavior of the cell membrane? Bakit siya? So wala yung makasuot, wala yung makagawas. Hindi patay ang cell. Diba? So, very intelligent kind of design sa cell membrane. It has to be unsaturated fatty acid, so that it appears to be liquid. No? But at the same time, it guards, no? It guards the cell, the embryal cell, and it also serves as the boundary of the internal and then the external environment of the cell. Okay? And also, other aspects of lipids in our body is that it is also being utilized by a lot of neural networks to speed up communication, particularly in lips. Are you familiar with this? Ano, nanibig naman ito. Ang sa mga siya class, may isa niya manakita pa daw. So, really? That is neuron. Diba? Neuron. Or nerve cell. Now, kani siya ba, diba? This is, ang evolution na. Basta something here, diba? These are neurotransmitters would enter neurons but to release specific information. Diba? And the speed of those neurotransmitters being relayed from one neuron to another depends on actually the thickness of your myelin sheath. They say those genius people or smart people, they tend to have thicker myelin sheaths. Okay? Because the thicker the myelin sheath, the long-term potentiation, that is the process by which short-term memory becomes long-term. But when your long-term memory is very good, that means you can memorize well. Okay? So, mutas-pas ang neural communication kung mas baga ang myelin sheath. And then myelin sheath is made up of sphingolipids. Those are a type of lipids. They say it's more of behavioral. So if you always study, I'm not sure about lifestyle or food because there are many quantum development ng mga advertisement na specific drugs could help boost memory. I'm not sure about the authenticity of those drugs, no? But ang pinaka-effective na way to thicken your myelin sheath is by behavioral practices. When we say behavioral practices, you adapt specific na mga habits, no? Na inyong ganito, and so that you could further maximize your studying habits. So, kung mag-study mo, gawin mo specific na mga techniques. No? Inakala na siya class. Okay? And since mga bata pa man delay, your myelin sheath are thicker, good, as compared to the older ones. Okay? Pero sige lang po ng cellphone, nililis din ang class. Okay? So next is, we have essential fatty acid. When we say essential fatty acids, again, these are fatty acids that are outsourced. When we say outsourced, kinanglan na nato siya from these specific mga foods. No? So we have the common ones. First is we have omega-3.
Salmon.
And we have also omega-6. Nasa tayo omega-7, nasa tayo omega-9. But the healthier options are omega-3 and omega-6. Now, kasi pasagutan ng omega-3, that is actually just an notation. That is omega-3. Okay? Omega-3, that refers to the first double bond at the metal end. For example, Canisia plus, most of mga foods like fresh, mga fish like tuna, most of them contain what we call as linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is this is actually an unsaturated fatty acid. That is C18, 30, 9, 12, 15. Sige, let's draw. Sa amin na tayo pag-draw ng linoleic acid is C18, 3, tapos 9, 12, 15.
Buti na maklaro.
Sige, let's draw this one. Of course, we're going to start with C double bond O, H, or carboxyl. And then 1, 2, sige, do it with me, class 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, okay, go. Alright, and then there are 3 double bonds at 9, 12, and 15. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sunod, 12, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, butang na ito mga age nila. So, butang na ito mga age, ano pinadali ba ako? So, age, then age. Okay, so this is linoleic acid, and then when you say omega-3, that is the first double bond from the methyl end. This is your methyl end, so this is 1, 2, and 3. Notice na ang 3 na CI double bond. So that is what you mean by omega-3. Okay? So that is omega-3. Most omega-3 are linoleic acid. Nasa the omega-6, that is your linolenic acid. Okay? So they are 18. There are C18, also arachidonic acid. Those are fatty acids that are mixed in omega-6 and also omega-3. But idea ng honey class is that the omega notation there serves as a signification. It's a sign that the first double bond at the methyl end is at 3. No? So that's omega-3. Now, you don't need to find it. No, that's just added information for isang fatty acid. Okay? So next is a battle between unsaturated versus saturated. Which one do you think would be healthier?
Unsaturated.
Healthier. The word that I used is healthier.
Unsaturated.
Okay? Now that has something to do with lipoproteins. Okay? So lipoproteins are special kind of lipids. No? They are mostly transport ng mga lipids, and then they transport mainly cholesterol. Are you familiar with cholesterol? What is that? Cholesterol. Anyway, cholesterol is actually good for your body. Okay? Our body constantly makes cholesterol. Cholesterol is a steroid lipid. Okay? They're a special kind of lipids because they do not follow what fatty acids look like. No? Puros mga hydrocarbons. No? Steroids are more cyclical. No? Steroids have what we call as nucleus. It's made up of 4 ring structures. So, when you see ang itawag na ito, steroid nucleus. And then a derivative of this is what we call as cholesterol. Okay? Now, cholesterol is being transported by lipoproteins. There are 2 kinds of lipoproteins in our blood. First is high-density lipoproteins. No? High-density. L. And then the other one is low-density. Tuloy din sila actually. HDL, LDL, or VLDL, or very low density. kaninang duha atong basihan to determine how good or better the fats are. No? So for high-density lipoproteins, we consider these lipoproteins as good. Okay? Remember, it's lipoprotein, so it's a combination of lipids and proteins. Now, what makes HDL good is that ang iyang composition is that it's made up of 30% lipids and 33% proteins. Okay? So, mas nabaw gamay ang proteins. For LDL, low density, which we consider as bad, ang iyang composition is that it is made up of 30% proteins and 50% lipids. So, mas nakinobra ang lipids. And that's not good. Okay? Because again, you are transporting cholesterol. Now, cholesterol becomes good because it is a precursor for sex hormones or adrenocortisol hormones. So see, there's a lot of things in lipids that we need to learn. So, when there is a higher concentration of low-density lipoproteins, the consequence is that cholesterol, since lipids are more dense than blood itself, what actually happens is it gets stuck around blood vessels. Remember, di ba? Lipoproteins are carriers, transport ng mga lipids. So they flow or they go along with your blood in the blood vessels. Now, cholesterol, if there is like a build-up, if grabe ang build-up sa cholesterol, especially na mas taas ang concentration ng LDL, ang mahitabo is mas stock up ang mga cholesterol. It builds up what we call as plaque. Kind like that. Like that. And then it solidifies or hardens a long time. And if ever ganing magkabaga ang stock up sa cholesterol, medyo mo ang flow sa blood is ma-obstructed siya ba? Maumot. That's the term. Maumot ang blood because may build up naman ang plaque or cholesterol. We call that condition as atherosclerosis. Now, atherosclerosis pa. When cholesterol gets built up around blood vessels, gani, and then instead na luab kaayo ang blood vessels, ninghuot na lang noon siya tungod sa build up sa cholesterol. Until such time na matabunan yun, completely mag-block off yun ang path sa blood, ang mahitabo is dili na noon matransport ang blood sa iyang padulgan. And especially if ang atherosclerosis kay nahitabo sa cardiac muscle. Nata cardiac muscle, di ba? Asa man ang datita? Heart. So kung dili kakabot ang oxygen padung sa imong heart, o sa imong hitabo sa heart, palitan stable. Very good. You'll suffer from myocardial infarction, or otherwise known as
Heart attack.
very good. Heart attack. No? So very important yun na kayo ba sa ikaw no? So for unsaturated fatty acids class, mas taas ang percentage ng high-density lipoproteins. For saturated, it doesn't actually mean you must taas ang fat. It's just equal, 50-50 na siya ang composition. So therefore, which one is healthier?
Not
It should be the
saturated.
saturated. Okay? Pero wala na nag-ingon na dapat magsige na lang po mong inom o vegetable oil dito. Yawan na lang po, yawan po ng vegetable oil. And then there is also another type of fat, which We call it as trans fat. Okay? Unsa naman po ni si trans fat? Kasi nang late ko yung mga pag-chichirya. Kasi nang late ko yung junk foods. Don't you know that junk foods are rich in trans fat? Kaya sa naman si palit ng hotcake dito sa gawas. Ano yung kapatid? Kaya kapatid pag yung sa hotcake ay kung margarine. A margarine is very rich also in trans fat. Now what is a trans fat? That's hindi na siya fake. Alright, now again, as what I said earlier, saturated fats, which they are cis double bonds. Okay? That means, yung nasa sa babaw, ang iyang bigas na side, inabot sa babaw. Kaya kung opposite siyang side, we call it as trans conformation. Now, this is the healthier. What happens is if, again, di ba sa yung iba na ito, usang bond is equivalent to one pair of hydrogen. If you want to eliminate this bond right here, we need to hydrogenate it. Okay? What do we mean by hydrogenate? We add one pair of hydrogen to remove that double bond. By removing that double bond, it becomes straight. Now, may siya trans fat. Okay? Now, trans fat, when it comes to lipoproteins, mas taas siya o percentage or concentration sa low-density lipoproteins. Where does the trans fat comes from? It's actually given sa mga partially hydrogenated oil products. The moment ay, tanawa sa inyong balay rin makita mo sa inyong margarita o sa inyong chichirya, na nasa ingredients dito, partially hydrogenated oil. No? Kasi kaya daw pamalit. So, we know that unsaturated oils, kay oils yun siya, but if we want it to be solid, we need to hydrogenate that one. That's why margarine appears solid, no? Mas-spread siya. And margarine are easily melted, just like butter also, because some butter are also partially hydrogenated. So hydrogenated meaning in our unsaturated fatty acids, kaya naman ay double bond, we eliminate those by adding hydrogen, one pair of hydrogen. So we add that in our double bonds, they become saturated glucose, no? And then they become solid in form. So muna siya nga ito
Chels.
Just like do. Okay? So most trans fats are used in commercially baked products. Dili na siya advent class. Okay. So where that's the numbers again, they are partially hydrogenated oil products. Now, can you see pwede pag natin yung siya hydrogenate further to become solid. Wala kasagaran mga junk foods. They're hydrogenated yun. Mag-hydrogenate siya ginipot, mawag ng laban, no, not necessarily. So, trans fats, kasi they're banned by, I don't know if you read that circular. That's actually banned by FDA as of 2018. Because, again, money siya. So, of course, recommended by for scientists, no? These are the things that we eat. These are the things that we avoid. Pero ito makikita mo, mas dami magkita. Pili ang magkita ka limod, kaya mas dami magkita na sa apoy. So, but we're not saying that you should totally avoid it if you're healthy. Okay, but some people who are having pre-existing conditions, they are not allowed to eat obese. But if you're totally healthy, that is fine because not really it's gonna poison your body. Actually, when you study pharmacy class, one thing that they will tell you is that everything is a poison. It's just a matter of concentration. Okay? So, ano na ginasiya? You have to remember that 1 gram of lipid produces more energy than carbohydrates. Okay? And because this is just a comparison. No? So olive oil, which is like a vegetable oil, which in saturated fats is wala na siya trans fat, is compared to manang nasa pancake mix. But of course, they are pinagkanan kayo masikal pancake. So that's fine. So it's not how much fat you eat, guys, but it's what kind of fat you're eating. Okay? So it all goes down to the shape of your